Good afternoon and welcome everybody. Thanks everyone for joining. We're just going to wait another couple of minutes just for people to start trickling in, and then we'll be underway in a minute or two. Okay, it looks like we've had a fair few more guests join, so we might kick off. So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. My name is Pete. I'm the head of sales at Fuse Technology. We're really happy to have everyone join us here today as we delve into the world of Agentic AI. So the purpose of this session is really for us to delve into four key things, and that is firstly, what is Agentic AI? Secondly, how is it different from traditional automation and AI tools that we're used to, like ChatGPT? We'll dig in a little bit further into what's possible right now for small and medium-sized businesses, and we'll give some real-world examples. And then at the end, we'll kind of close out by showing you what's coming next and discuss how we can help you prepare your business for Agentic AI. So I'll introduce our speaker for the day. That will be Chung Mei Viet. He's our Managing Director here at Fuse. Chung will kind of guide us through these topics. He'll help provide some useful and valuable insights that you can apply to your business. So before I throw over to Chung to get started, just quickly, if you do have any questions throughout the session, please feel free to drop those in either the chat or the Q&A box. Julie and I from the Fuse side will kind of manage those and we'll capture them and we'll send them up to Chung to answer if he hasn't touched on that topic already. So for now, Chung, over to you. I'll let you take it from here.
Thanks, Pete, for the intro. Welcome, everyone. Wow, interesting times in AI at the moment. I think where we've seen a lot of movement over the last kind of 24 to 12 months is, on the generative side, personal productivity, workflow. But what we're starting to see now is more kind of specific use cases built for business. And what I'm going to do today is kind of just show you how we're dabbling in it, what we think the cadence should be for businesses, and then ultimately how we can help you in your AI journeys. So, if you kind of start off, who's Fuse? We're an Australian managed service provider for anyone here that's not a customer of ours today. But mainly what we try to do is focus and transform technology within our clients. So we're not just the guys that fix your computers when they break. It's more about how do you get the most out of your IT? How do you make sure you're safe and secure in today's day and age? And ultimately, getting value. So we really believe that most companies only ever use 50% of the IT tools that they have. And our job is to get you to use more of it so that you can get better value out of technology. But ultimately, it just empowers your business to grow and, use people for things that are important, not things that are repetitive. So what's Agentic AI? So this is, everyone's been talking about AI. We all know ChatGPT. If you haven't used it already, you're probably, what is it now? I think they've just hit 1 billion users globally using ChatGPT. But the main thing for us is, what are the big differences? So generative AI is all about prompts and data, right? So, you've got a box in front of you, you ask it a question, and then it learns from the data that you've either given it, and then it produces content. It's all about creativity, content automation. So, I use it daily. It might be, I've got a thought bubble, I want to do some research. In the past, I would have spent a bunch of time kind of taking notes. But then, sometimes you just need to get on meetings and answer questions quickly, and generative AI helps hugely with that. Where Agentic is different is it's about starting to make decisions, react to environments, produce tasks or goal-oriented results, and it's about high autonomy, and it's all about specific use cases for you and your business. So what we're seeing is what can Agentic do for AI and small medium businesses, right? So it's all about making your data speak. So for us, you think of things in most businesses like e-discovery software. Like in the past, you used to have to buy these tools. Say you had you're a lawyer and you got given a trove of data for a court case, and you used to have to use these tools that were quite specific about searching for data. Now you can basically load them up into a generative AI tool and start asking it questions. But now it's like, how do you build that specifically for your use cases? How do you train it up with the data that you have? You look at legal research tools, practice management solutions, and in our world, it's our help desk tool. Our help desk tool's got a ton of information in it, and our team constantly have to go back to old tickets, look for information. If one of you log a ticket and said, "Oh, I've got this constant problem," in the past we'd have to troll through tickets, look through data. Now, the tools are getting to the point where, they want us to start asking the generative AI questions. So what we're seeing is a kind of a use case around that specifically. And what we've done at Fuse is we've started playing with this in small ways. So for those that don't know who Simone is, Simone's our head of people and culture. And, she is a one-man band at the moment. We're not a huge business, but we people are at the heart of what we do. And she gets questions all the time, every day, about all sorts of things. So what we decided to do was build a little tool that would help her in the workload so that the staff could ask her a tool question. So I'm going to just show you what we generated in that. So I'm just going to switch across to Ask Simone. So Ask Simone sits within Microsoft Teams. So you can see here there's a little tab on the side here called Ask Simone, and it's a prompt box, right? So what I can do here is basically say, what is the staff review process for Fuse? And what it does is we've basically used a bunch of our policies and procedures internally. We've trained up the AI agent specifically around things to do with HR and pointed it at a unique set of data. And what you can see is, it goes off, it does a little bit of a search, and it says, right, the staff review process at Fuse is as follows. There's like a performance counseling process, documentation, support, weekly meetings, right? But then what you can do is you can see that it links off into our policies. And this is where the power of, your AI agents is that you can build it specifically to your business and what you want. So you can see I've kind of asked it a few questions above, to refer a friend. What if I want to refer a friend for a job at Fuse? It comes up and it says, right, this is the process. And by the way, there's a FAQ for recruitment and selection. One of the other questions is, how do I look? I said, what's the process to log my expenses? Oh, you need to get approval, you need to document so and so. Well, how do I log this into the Xero? And then it actually goes off and says, oh, you log into Xero, this is how you do it. And if you need any requirements, you can see there's a Fuse Leave FAQ. So once again, this is built into Microsoft. So this is Microsoft Copilot Agents. It's a tool that anyone can get access to today, and you pay to add it on, but it's all about kind of training that data. And so you can see that in the real world, what that's done is if it saves Simone half an hour of emails a day or 15 minutes of email a day, you can see how it quickly adds up. And as your business scales and grows, I don't have to hire an extra person to help Simone for a while, because then it lets her focus on these things specifically, right? So it lets her go, you know what? All of these email queries can be handled by a chatbot that we've trained up, that's an agent for us. And then once that's done, if there's any more escalations, then we know there's a policy document that you can read, and then if you need anything more, then email Simone directly. So it's all about taking that noise away from people day in, day out. And you can do this for any task that you have. So Microsoft actually are now building pre-made agents into their tool. So if you see here, so this is Microsoft 365 Copilot. So it's a special license edition that we have. And when you look at it, they've actually got pre-written agents. They've got like an analyst agent, right? What trends do you see in the uploaded files? So you can start uploading files and do analytical searches. There's a research analyst, and you can see how they've kind of pre-briefed it. But the great thing about agents is you can actually then go and create your own agents, which is what we did. So, you might want to create a career coach for your team, and then you can go in and configure it up and tell it what to do and all sorts of things. So that's just an example today of what you can do out of the box with Copilot Studio. And that's the tool that I showed you for the Ask Simone, what that's built on. The second tool we did was we now have a treasure trove of data in our business. So we have a tool called Autotask. It is our service desk tool, our CRM tool. And what we did was we went, well, where is this going? So everyone's kind of building their own AI tools, but there are some things that I don't think are ready yet for the market, but we also want to test. We want to see, well, what does our data look like? What if we start putting generative AI tools on our own data? So what this is kind of like an MVP product. We literally just spun it up over the last kind of month or two. What we did was we built some infrastructure on Microsoft Azure. We used Azure OpenAI models. So Microsoft have a partnership with OpenAI, so you can basically use the OpenAI models within Azure. And then we basically said, tap into our database and let's ask it some questions. So I would say, I am having problems installing Office on my PC. What can I try to fix this? So, this is a pretty basic question. It's not about like providing the answer, but it's all about proving the concept. So what it did was to resolve the user's issue with installing, instruct them to do this: uninstall, download, reinstall, most likely solution. But the brains of it is that it's actually gone into our ticketing system and gone, actually, what similar ticket is there, right? And so it's like, I would like to ask for information on this, right? And this is the actual user. And then, I've kind of got some examples of where the client is, but you can see that it's actually referred to the ticket number. So our help desk staff can go, oh, actually, that's happened before. But, more powerfully, I then go, it's given me some information on the user. Maybe I should try something different. And then I will say, Chanel from Australian Presence Legal is having issues with his computer. When was the last time he logged a ticket? So instead of trolling through our service desk, asking for a bunch of questions, it's gone off and said, I can't find anything specific. So this is like, not too sure, but by the way, actually, I've submitted a ticket for QC. It's actually from Chanel, and it was on the 12th of June. So once again, it's not perfect yet, but what it does is it just shows you that over time, as these models get better, as we train them up a little bit better, as we kind of start thinking about our data and how we can access them, my brain then goes to, well, imagine if I could then say, right, Bob on the service desk is sick, and Joe logged a ticket for Bob, but I'm not too sure when it was done. Can you pull up the information? Instead of trolling through it, the service desk agent will be able to ask that question, right? And before you know it, they've surfaced the information without trolling through a tool. It then allows us to load that information into the tool, get the information in a lot more detail, but it just greases the workflow for our team day in, day out. And then I start thinking about, well, as a manager, what do I want to know? How many hours did Jack do last week, and how many tickets did he log, and which customers did he do work on? And I can start asking it these questions. And I'm sure there are times in a day where you've got questions on the data that you've got, and you really want to kind of get back to, like, instead of asking someone to run a report or doing something that kind of takes time, you can just start imagining ways of asking for data. And that's where we see the power of these agents going. And so for us, it's all about using the right tools at the right time. We don't feel that you should go all in on something because the technology is changing so quickly, but start picking small things that will save your business a lot of time very quickly. So another example of where agents can perform tasks is, say, a new user onboarding process. So one of the things that takes Fuse a lot of time, day in, day out, is onboarding new customers or new staff. And we basically, have to do a bunch of things. We have to fill in a form. We then have to, do a bunch of other things, or onboarding a client. So imagine if we onboard a new lead, right? A client fills out a form and says, I'm Joe Boggs from so-and-so. We then go off and check LinkedIn for that company and make sure, hey, is this client actually from LinkedIn? Then we might run a conflict check. So for instance, we sometimes have other resellers that we do work for, and that reseller might have a non-compete clause. So we can go off and run a conflict check. Then we'll send that end user a meeting request, which is automatically, hey, we hear you're interested in us. We're really keen. Can you confirm this is your LinkedIn address, because this is what we could find on you? By the way, here's some times to talk to one of our consultants. And then it can send a summary, and then we can send a personalized email with an invite, all without prompts. And so there's some of the kind of agentic AI processes that we can do today that will reduce significantly the amount of work we do. So when I talk about things like that, then I kind of talk about our onboarding agent, right? So I'm going to show you what we use. So we use it's rolling out to all of our customers now. So basically all of our customers will get a portal like this. And this portal basically does a bunch of things, but the main thing is, you say, right, I want to request a service, right? I want a new employee onboarding process. So what this does is it captures all the information, right? I can tell it to add a personal, so for MFA, for instance, or if they've got a personal number, we want to add it to their global address book. Do they have a non-standard email address? No, we're going to leave that the same, right? Are they an employee or a contractor? What business unit they're in? What department? So what we do is this process will pre-populate a bunch of data, right? So that we only get the request once, right? We then say, oh, should it be copied from anything? Yes, actually, let's copy it from Dante, right? So we know that Dante is also in sales. Next. Oh, he needs all these tools. He needs an Uber business account, a Wise account. No. Next. Does he need a new device? Existing? Oh, actually, no. Let's get him the next one. Carbon, headset, monitor, etc. Will the employer require a company phone? No. Yes, they'll get an allowance. And then I hit submit. And what this does is that we use a tool on the back end called Roost, which is an AI automation tool. It then goes out and connects to all of our systems. So it will request a Microsoft license from Microsoft. It will request a new computer from our Kaseya ordering tool. It will log a ticket into our service desk so that the rules and things can be all set up. but it will actually automatically drop us into all the bunch of groups. So this process, normally for the average process for us to onboard a new staff member used to take about 2 hours. We can now get it down to half an hour of work. And so you can see where agentic AI, it doesn't need to be something that is mind blowing. What it needs to be is something that can kind of fix tasks in your business in a repetitive manner, and it's small. It doesn't have to be a big investment, but it's all about making sure that we constantly look for efficiency gains and getting staff doing the things that matter, right? And that's the big trick for me, is how do I make sure that when my staff do things, they're adding real value and not doing things that can be just automated and clicked through using agentic AI. So if I look at kind of where we go today, so how do you get started? So it's powerful, but it's not perfect. So there's been really some bad examples where, someone goes out and creates using vibe coding. So if anyone doesn't know what vibe coding is, it's all about kind of developing apps with just no skills at all. There was an example of where someone created an app that actually went through and deleted the company's entire database because they didn't know what they were going to do. The other problem is security risks, right? So when you're doing these things, you've got to understand what the security implications of those changes are. Because ultimately, if you make a change and you go, oh, I'm going to allow it to go off and order this thing. Well, imagine if there were no rules on the other side. Imagine if you got it wrong. So an example of ordering a Microsoft license, imagine if instead of ordering one Microsoft license, you ordered 1,000 Microsoft licenses because there was a loop or a problem. That's when it can be really tricky. So one of the things that we say is, really make sure that when you start this journey, you understand the risks, you talk to a professional, we can help you on the journey. We want you to be as self-sufficient as possible. Our job is to build the guardrails so that you don't make the mistakes that can cause harm in your business. So what we're seeing at the moment, the big picture is, if you haven't seen it already, Australia's Productivity Commission report shows that productivity has been slowing for over a decade, right? Professionals are feeling the pinch, admin overhead, compliance, talent shortages. What we're saying is AI is not here to replace your team. It's here to get your team doing the things that matter. So if I look at my business, we want our staff to be engaged with our clients. We don't want them sitting in a desk clicking next, 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 ordering things, processing things. We want them talking to our customers about these problems and how we can fix them. And I'm sure your business is the same. When I talk to lawyers, their biggest challenge is, I don't have time to review this stuff. I need it summarized. I can't find an intern. I can't find a junior. Well, imagine if you could build some tools that will do that for you. And then that will free you up to do the important stuff, like talking to the customers about their business and their legal problems. So it's all about taking on repetitive tasks and just picking the bits in your business that can make a real difference today. So how do you prepare your business for what's coming? So in the next 2 years, we think AI agents will handle most routine admin in most SMBs. And when I think about what that means, imagine if you had an expense claim. So what do you do today? You get a receipt, you take a client out to lunch, and you come back to the office and you have a receipt. That receipt, you have to then take a photo of it. You then have to put it into Xero or whatever your expense system is. Someone has to approve it. Someone then has to load it into the bank, and away they go. And that process could take 15, 20 minutes. Now imagine the power of, you just do lunch with a customer. You ask the restaurant to email you the invoice. As soon as it hits your mailbox, you've got an AI agent that says, oh, I just received an invoice for lunch at this restaurant. And then it automatically logs that into Xero or an expense system. That expense system looks at it and goes, oh, delegation of authority, that staff member has an allowance of spending X number of dollars every month on restaurants, and it's in their approval limit, and it automatically logs it. And then all that happens is finance, when they're doing the expense runs, reviews it, says, yes, this is ticked because it's been delegated. They're within their budget. Manager doesn't need to know, I'm going to put it in the next payment run and I'm going to approve the bank payment. So that's an example of routine admin tasks that AI can do within the next 2 years, within the next year, within the next 6 months, where it will drive significant cost savings in your business by people not having to push paper around, but also by making life easier. So there's for those that use Xero, for instance. So in the past, Xero, if you had bills coming in, you had to use third-party products like Dext or HubDoc or whatever. Xero now has it so that you just basically, there's an automatic bill entry. You just literally drag a bill in, a PDF bill into Xero, and it will automatically read it and put it into drafts. It's only a matter of time before that whole process gets automated even further. And then what's going to happen in the next 5 years, right? So Agentic AI will eventually integrate into most workflows, right? It'll suggest improvement, flag risks. So imagine in call it 3 years' time, you get a automatic response in your inbox that says, hey, Chung, your expenses for entertainment this month is above the trend. You should look into that. And here, by the way, are the trends. Bob has spent twice as much this month as he did last month. And on a running average, he's actually spent gradually more. You should look into it further. Or you get a notification from Xero because all the invoices are entered in automatically that says, hey, over the last 3 months, your mobile phone bill has been going up by 5% per month. Have you been at, well, actually, we haven't seen you onboard any new staff yet. Why is your phone bill going up? So Agentic AI will start solving some of those problems. And then they'll allow people to get back to doing the work that matters. So, for instance, if you're in finance, instead of kind of doing all of that busy work, finance will be able to get the analysis, get those reports and go, actually, I should dive into this a little bit further, do the investigation. That's where we see the kind of future of AI and the agents. So that's coming. So what should you know now? Now's the time to act. Really start mapping out the repetitive processes you have in your business. And I can tell you off the top of my head, and I'm not even in the weeds of my business, 20 processes today that I know can be automated in our business. Start small, right? Don't go all in. It doesn't work. Find out what can be done very quickly in your business, right? So you've already probably done things like, you outsource your IT problem to someone like Fuse, right? So the challenge that Fuse has is these things, as we automate these things, what's actually happening is the cost of security is going up because security is becoming more and more of an issue. So, how do we drive down our cost of delivering services to you? Well, the only way that we can do it is by automating security and other things. And then make sure you really test the ROI. So for me, I know how much my staff cost, and it's a pretty simple equation. You've got your staff costs, you deliver this much back in return, but really, if your business is growing, if you can grow your revenue line without increasing your staff line, then you know that you're starting to get better productivity and ROI out of AI tools. So that's one of the things that I really drive within my business. How do I deliver more dollar of revenue per staff member? That's the easiest measure of the ROI that you can do in your business today. And then where are we going into the future? Well, I think ultimately there's going to be jobs that will definitely be replaced by AI, but all that does is it improves the automation moving forward. It improves the workforce. People will be doing different tasks, different roles. There's going to be a whole industry of taking care of the AI. People joke that robots are going to come and replace us all. But really, what's going to happen is robots are going to come along doing the work that we don't want to do. We're going to employ a bunch of people to service the robots, and the industry just keeps going forward. Life keeps going forward. So from that perspective, we're seeing a huge amount of change. When we say test the ROI, what we feel that you should look at as well is, imagine if you could spend $10,000 today, but you would save 20 hours a week for one member of staff. What is that worth to your business? Right? They're the things that you should be looking at. So for me, I've got a pretty simple model. We know how many tickets our engineers do. If we can automate a certain amount of tickets, we know that will drive our costs down. So in your business, it might be a lawyer, it might be an accountant. If you can free them up doing things that don't add value, i.e. you can't charge to your customers, for instance, entering in timesheets, paperwork, moving things from one place to another. If you can remove that work from your business, then it will make a significant change. Now, from my perspective, we've finished the demo. Does anyone have any questions? Pete, Julian, were there any questions that you think I should dive into further as part of this session today?
So there is just one question at this point, but if anyone has any more questions, please feel free to drop them into Q&A or chat. But one question, what was it, from Adrian Barnes? To create an agent, does every user in the organization need to have the Copilot license?
No. So Copilot agents is a specific SKU, and it's just based on usage. And no, you can basically just have one agent spun up. Not everyone needs it. Also, I think what people don't realize is that for free in Microsoft, you get their chat tool. So, most people know ChatGPT. Well, if you've got a Microsoft Office 365 subscription, you actually get ChatGPT for free. And it's actually protected and in your environment. So that's for free. And then agents, you don't need everyone to have a license. You just need to buy a license. And we can kind of walk you through that journey. It's not a huge amount of money. And it also depends on how many questions get asked of it and all that sort of stuff. But it's a pretty low cost barrier to entry.
Thanks, John. One more question from Andrew McGregor. What comment do you have about the use of meeting tools and the Australian privacy laws? And I think that expands a bit more as well into, all the AI tools that tap into data and where the data is stored.
Yeah, look, so if you've never used the meeting tool, so the way Microsoft do it is you need to, like any meeting, you've been told that it's being recorded. If you don't want to record it, you can say opt out. It's only available, those meetings on the Microsoft Teams side are only available to the person who set up the meeting. So it can't be shared with everyone else around you. But it's like anything, there's disclosures. You need to know what's available in your industry. There are some lawyers that absolutely refuse to have anything recorded, and that's fine. But, for us internally, there's nothing internally that can't be kind of recorded and shared or transcribed. So it's kind of up to each individual and each organization. But from our perspective, it saves so much time. I don't have to have people taking meeting notes, minutes. We can just focus on the content, and then we can go through afterwards and get the actions out of that. And the content of it is pretty good these days.
And I've got one question from Alicia. As a charity, if we can drive costs down and increase the capacity of our team, our charitable impact increases, which is true. How to get started is always the biggest challenge. Do we approach use to assist us with this work? Or do we bring someone in-house with an AI agent skills?
No, I think basically it's a two-pronged attack. So a lot of clients will create like an AI champion inside their business, but we can also help you start the journey. So, starting the journey is sometimes as quick as a first initial conversation to see what your problems are. Then there can be a couple of processes that we take. You might if you have a specific problem that you know that you want to solve, we can just go in, have a look at that process and workflow, quote you up and say, right, it's going to cost you this much to do this. But if you want to be on a journey, then we can just use one of our consultants to come in, sit with you, work through it. Depending on who you are, we're happy to kind of have that initial conversation and journey with you. So realistically, there's many different ways to do it, but chats with us are free. So if you're not sure where to start, we'll get you in front of David, who kind of heads up our AI and dev teams, and Peter, head of sales, or myself. We'll just go on the journey with you, ask you a bunch of questions, see where we can go, and start from there. And we might bring up ideas that you've never thought of before as well in those initial chats. So yeah, advice is free at the moment. When you want us to start doing some work, that's when we start talking about the commercials.
You said called you.
Okay, I just see one more that just dropped in. Do you see Microsoft being the all-in-one solution for most businesses now? CRM seems to be one of the last tools we use outside of Microsoft. What are your thoughts on Dynamic 365 for CRM and Helpdesk?
Yeah, look, I don't think one size fits all. But, Microsoft are trying to do that. I think we use Dynamics for sales, but we don't use it for our help desk because we have a product that's fit for market. What it comes down to is it's more about whatever tool you choose, you've got to make sure they've got API integrations so that we can query the data regardless. Because ultimately what you want is you want the data and the stuff that you bring forth to be your own data. And so my view is use the tools that are right. Let us do the job of the experts in figuring out how to get the data into that tool or out of that tool. And if Microsoft is the right solution for you for everything, then great. We can help you with that as well. But I don't think you should put all your eggs in one basket just for the sake of making AI the future. I think AI will come to every product. There's a question about how accountability is managed when these agent makes decisions that impact people or business outcomes. So the question I always, that's the answer I always give when I do this is, it's no different to any other employee in your business. Sometimes people make mistakes. So I have staff, I have senior staff. They make mistakes that cost our business real money every day. The job is to build processes and systems around to make sure that we're checking for the obvious mistakes, and where there are not obvious mistakes, that we have processes in place to deal with it. And it's like anything. 2 years ago when ChatGPT came out, all the schools and universities banned them immediately. Now all the schools and universities are embracing it because they've built processes and systems to make sure that the students aren't using them for cheating. It's the same in your business. When you roll it out, make sure that what you roll it out for is low risk. And as you start amping up the risk, you make sure that you have the systems and processes in place to mitigate against mistakes. Because whether it be an AI agent that makes a mistake or a human that makes mistakes, ultimately business is accountable regardless. So just make sure that you have the right things in place to do that, to handle that.
Thanks, Chung. I think that's it in terms of questions.
Amazing. So call to action. If you are keen, feel free to email the team. If you've got an account manager, we will reach out to you all with a follow-up with a recording. I think there are some people that wanted to share this with other people in their organizations. If you want more of a deep dive, happy to kind of come out and do a bit more of a deep dive and give you some more kind of specific use cases in your business. It's always hard to kind of decide what to share in these webinars because it's quite a broad view. But what we're also doing is we're doing AI information sessions for executive teams, boards. So if you have a requirement for us to come out and have a chat at a more detailed level around security and impacts, we're happy to do that as well. We are by all means not the experts day in, day out on this stuff. I have a team of people specifically around AI that we use and we work with to help us. But like anything, we want to make sure that you understand the security implications and how it can just help you in your day-to-day technology use. So thank you everyone for your time today. We will wrap this up, and yeah, if there's any more questions, reach out. Otherwise, you might hear from one of our team following up on today and seeing if it was useful.
Thank you, everyone. Back in your day now.